important news coming in. SEBI has released a circular on the introduction of flexi cap funds. Flexi cap funds can invest, or rather should invest, a minimum of 65% in equities. The idea behind this, of course, follows after the whole multi-cap fund circular, wherein SEBI asked for these funds to be true to their label and split it across a large cap, mid cap and small cap fund. And post that, of course, we had recommendations coming in. Now, I'm joined by a very special guest, Mr. Nilesh Shah of Kotak Mutual Fund. He, in fact, was one of the people who suggested to SEBI, to create a new category amid all of these tweaks in multi-cap fund rules. Mr. Shah, many thanks for joining us today on ET Now. So tell us, flexi cap funds now a reality, minimum 65% in equities, a way better option than, multi-cap funds having to sort of adhere to the new label of multi-cap?
So this is in continuation of true to label philosophy for better investor education. Multi-cap funds will have 25% minimum allocation to large, mid and small, whereas there will be new category of flexi cap fund, which while maintaining equity fund status by investing up to 65% in equity, will be free to move across large, mid and small. Some of the existing multi-cap fund, for example, we run India's largest multi-cap fund, Kotak Standard Multi-Cap Equity Fund. We will move that fund into flexi-cap category by following due process of law. And we are thankful to SEBI that they accepted MFI's suggestion on creating flexi-cap category, which is true to label.
Mr. Shah, so this would, so the Kotak Standard Multi-Cap Fund will be converted into a flexi-cap fund, the new category for which the circular has been introduced. And yes, like Mr. Shah said, this is the largest in the multi-cap fund category. Mr. Shah, would I be correct in saying that this comes now close enough to perhaps an equity-oriented hybrid fund where, there as well, you have to have minimum 65% and you're free to move within the market capitalization?
Equity hybrid funds are definitely flexi cap in nature. However, there is a cap in terms of equity allocation. So, flexi cap category will be managed in similar fashion where it can move across capitalization. But normally, we try to keep up to 95% invested in equities, even though minimum permissible amount is 65% for tax status. As fund house, we don't take cash call. We have to outperform an index which is 100% into equity. So unlike hybrid schemes where equity allocations will be somewhere around 75%, in a normal equity fund, equity allocations will be around 95 to 100%.
Okay. Mr. Shah, I think this move would definitely sort of curb, the potential market volatility that would have come about had all of these multi-cap funds essentially have to adhere to that old rule that, SEBI had released. The last 2-3 odd months, in fact, perhaps longer, the last 2-3 odd months, we had been seeing net outflows from multi-cap funds. That's what the AMFI data as well indicated. Do you think that this would perhaps stem that as well? And, your retail investor, this would sort of reinforce the faith in this category, in this new category for retail investors?
So there has been redemption across equity mutual funds for a variety of reasons, and multi-cap fund also witnessed some outflows. However, these outflows were function of multiple reasons. One was profit booking as market had run up sharply from March lows. The other could be financial requirement as economy was going through a turbulent time, and many people had to invest money in their business by liquidating their surplus investment. There could be potentially some outflows from multi-cap fund to small and mid-cap funds, as there was a perception among investors that multi-cap funds will be forced to buy small and mid-cap at any price. However, this was kind of clarified multiple times by SEBI and MFI that the intention of multi-cap circular was true to label and not to force mutual funds to buy small and mid-cap stocks without looking at valuation. So my feeling is that the outflows from equity funds, including multi-cap category, had more to do with profit booking and need of money rather than this circular.
So just to understand, from a retail investor perspective, today, if I'm a unit holder of the Kotak Standard Multi-Cap Fund, and, Mr. Shah, you've already said that you will be recategorizing this fund from multi-cap to, the flexi cap scheme. As a retail investor, is it status quo for me, except for, of course, that now when my, CAM statement comes, instead of Kotak Standard Multi-Cap Fund, the name will be different?
Undoubtedly, yes. If you are an investor in Kotak Standard Multi-Cap Fund, number one, you are a lucky investor as this fund has really performed well. Number two, the investment process which we have built over last many years in managing this Kotak Standard Multi-Cap Fund will be continued in totality. Only thing what changes for investor is Kotak Standard Multi-Cap Fund will now be called Kotak Standard Flexi Cap Fund after due process of law. The fund manager, Harsha Upadhyay, remains the same. The investment process of Kotak Mutual Fund remains the same. The investment process in terms of allocation to large, mid and small for managing Standard Multi-Cap will continue to remain same in Standard Flexi Cap Fund.
Well, Mr. Shah, many thanks for joining us today on the show on this very important news. SEBI's circular on flexi cap schemes has been introduced. Mr. Nilesh Shah, of course, had recommended this option as well for the introduction of a category called flexi cap schemes, which would definitely minimize disruption, for multi-cap fund managers, for multi-cap fund holders as well. Thanks so much, Mr. Shah, for joining in.